here.
Right there, right there.
There she is right underneath the bush. They're resting in the shade. Her mouth is open and she's panting a little bit to try to cool off in the heat right now. Now cheetahs, you're probably aware, are the fastest land animal, clocked at speeds of around 70 miles per hour. They're also the only big cat that does not have retractable claws. Their claws are fully extended, similar to the claws of a dog. And well, if you think about it, it makes perfect sense. Those claws act a little bit like the cleats in a runner's shoe. Gives them really good traction when they sprint out at those top speeds. The rest of the time, though, cheetah's doing just that, resting and conserving energy. Now, if you look over on the left-hand side of the vehicle on the hillside, these little tan animals with black stripes along their sides, these are the Thompson's gazelles. Now, those are the main prey animal of the cheetah. And even in the wild, these little Tommies, they like to stay in pretty close proximity to the cheetah. They like to keep an eye on the cheetah, and they'll keep what's called a flight distance. They know how far away they need to be in order to get away. And they'll flag their tails at the cheetah just to say, I'm watching you. Those tan animals over there with the long slender horns are called the fringe-eared oryx. And we'll talk about those a little more when we come back around again. Well, the continent of Africa has many rich and diverse ecosystems. Africa is also home to the densest population of uniquely diverse species of animals on the entire planet. Today we're going to get a glimpse into the beauty and majesty of the African continent as represented by some of those very special animals that live there. We're also going to be able to see firsthand just how those animals have adapted to their unique environments. Now, adaptations come in many different forms. Physical adaptations are pretty straightforward and easy to understand. For instance, it makes perfect sense why the cheetah would not have retractable claws. However, there are other adaptations which are quite subtle by nature. An example of that would be a social adaptation, where entire groups of animals will actually work together cooperatively in the wild to ensure their survival. And I'll point out a few of those too today. But right now, let's take our attention to the right-hand side of the vehicle. We are looking for our East African black rhinoceros. And I see Limby and her little calf Belozi to the far left-hand corner of this exhibit, the second tree back. They're standing right in front of the rocks there. So you might have to kind of stand up a little bit and look over the edge to see them. They kind of look like rocks themselves. This subspecies of rhino is endangered. There's only about 500 of them left in the world. It's a fringe species. So it lives right on the edge of the forest and the grassland. Has a much smaller head than our grazing rhinos here, so that they can lift their head up nice and high and grab leaves off of bushes and trees with that semi-prehensile hook lip that you see right there. Now, all rhinos are pretty big animals, as you can see very clearly. And being big has definite advantages in the wild. The most important one is the larger you are, the less likely predators are going to bother you. The flip side of that coin is that big bodies produce an enormous amount of heat. So these larger animals have to develop all kinds of strategies to eliminate heat from their bodies, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But right now, look over to the left side of the vehicle, and you'll see some of our great white pelicans. It looks like they're trying to get maybe some fish in there, or some kind of insect. They're all into over there by the papyrus grass. They're swimming around here as well. These are the largest species of pelican in the world. And if you look over here on the island, you'll see some of our western Rappel's vultures and a Dalmatian pelican. Now, these pelicans have an interesting social adaptation because they actually work together cooperatively to fish. They'll get out on the water as a group looking for a school of fish. Then when they find one, they'll all start vigorously flapping their wings, kind of herding the fish into the center of their group. Then they'll make a little tiny circle around them and scoop them up with their gular pouch. That's that pink fleshy sac that hangs from their bill and is attached to their throat. It acts a little bit like a fishing net. All right. Now, I saw Nala somewhere down here in the water. Let's see if we can see her as I come up the hill. Okay, she didn't pick the best spot in the world, but one of those strategies that large animals use, like rhinos especially, to cool down is to wallow in mud. And I'm going to stop right here, and you can kind of look over the fence. You can stand up if you like right there. And you'll see Nala, our northern white rhinoceros, laying in the pond down there, cooling off. Now, rhinos don't have a lot of hair on their body, so they'll not only cool off in the water, but they'll coat their bodies with mud to keep from getting sunburned. They actually have very sensitive skin. Nala is a critically endangered species of rhinoceros. There are only 7 of them that are known to exist in the world today. We have 2 here at the San Diego Zoo's Wild Animal Park, and there are 5 that live at the Fox Zoo in the Czech Republic.
That's it.
They come from DR Congo, and there haven't been any seen in the wild there for at least 4.5 years. We'll see another one up ahead, so we're going to go ahead and scoot on up ahead here and see if we can find Angalifu, our male. But this is a grazing rhinoceros. They have a much larger head, and if you notice, Nala's head's up on the beach because she can't lift it out of the water. When she lays in the water to cool down like this, the head has to stay on the beach. It's about 1/5 of their body weight and can weigh anywhere from 800 to 1,000 pounds. Kind of look back on her back there.
Yeah.
Now coming up on the right-hand side of our vehicle, we're going to see some of our desert-adapted animals here. Let's see who's home. I see at the feeder a large white animal. This is an addax, the one with the spiraling horns. There's a few addax laying in this little gully to the right as well. At the feeder there's also a slender-horned gazelle. Now the addax are the most desert-adapted of all the antelope. They can actually go an entire lifetime without a single drink of standing water, subsisting completely from the moisture in the plants that they eat. And their white coat coloration helps to reflect the intense sun's rays in the Sahara Desert of northern Africa where they live. These animals were hunted to the point of extinction in their environment. There weren't any of them left. And they're part of what's called, oh, look way up on the top of the hillside and you'll see a number of them at the feeder there as well. They're part of what's called the Sahelo-Saharan Project, which is a cooperative reintroduction program that the San Diego Zoo is working on in collaboration with other zoos in the United States and in Europe. It's what's called a species survival plan. So in December of 2007, we contributed 13 addax to a protected area in Tunisia, and they're no longer extinct in the wild. On the left side of our vehicle, these tan animals with the black racing stripes along their sides are called the South African springbok. Very quick little animals. They're the national animal of South Africa as well. And this stately gentleman walking up to the feeder here to the left, this is our South African sable antelope, our male. Dad is chocolate brown with gigantic horns pointing towards his back. We're going to come forward a little bit and we'll see one of his babies standing in the feeder right here. And you can see 3 females out there as well. Now those females you can see are much smaller than the male, and they also have horns. So the reason they have those horns is not going to be to compete with him because they're so much smaller. What's going on here is that these females are extremely territorial, and they work together within a matriarchal hierarchy, basically to claim a territory in the wild that has the most abundant resources. They plant their little hooves and they don't let anyone move them off. On the other side of the dirt road here, those large gray animals with the long black faces are the wildebeest. They're sometimes called the white-bearded gnu for that fringe of blonde hair hanging from their neck. Closest to us, these lavender-colored animals with the long, slender horns, these are gemsbok. You can see they have a beautiful black and white facial mask, which is called a threat mask. That threat mask covers the vulnerable part of the body there. The eye kind of hides it, makes the horns look longer, and adds symmetry. You can see they have very symmetrical markings. Symmetry is a fitness indicator to an antelope. Now the animal that's just to the left of the wildebeest, and there's a good number of them up on the top of the hill there, those are Patterson's eland. They're the 2nd largest antelope in the world, second only to the giant eland. And if you notice, there's a little flap of skin hanging off of their neck right there. That's called a dewlap. And that dewlap acts a little bit like the radiator in a car would to help cool their bodies down. Now the animals that are right where the dirt road's kind of T-bone there, just to the right of it, they're black and they have horns going across their foreheads. Those are the Cape buffalo. Now Cape buffalo definitely have a reputation that precedes them as being one of the most aggressive animals in all of Africa. But it's important to remember they're also one of the most gregarious. They have a social adaptation called mobbing, where if bothered by predators like lions, instead of running away and leaving the sick animals behind or the babies, they'll actually encircle them, forming an offensive front line and go as far as to stampede down predators. So they don't run away and leave the sick behind, they'll actually protect them.